Ahoy. Live from Tijuana. It's the Wilbur and Gold Show. Actually, I'm not at Tijuana or anywhere fucking close to it. I'm actually in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, as you can see by the background view there. On a little 2-day trip, sipping some Cabernet at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. I really like wine. I just got a little bit on my nose. I don't know if you can see that or not. Me personally, if you have, you're kind of on a budget, maybe a college student budget or whatever, yellowtail, you can never go wrong with a good yellowtail. $5-6 from Walmart, Food Line, wherever your local grocery store, I guarantee you they have yellowtail. And I really only ever drank Cabernet just because it's like the manly beer, or the manly wine. If I'm being completely honest, like, I feel like beer, wine, and cigars, just because there's so many different types and flavors and makers of it, it's like one of those things that you should try and really have as much of a variety as possible and try as many different kinds as you can instead of just sticking with the same old thing all the time. I like my Cabernet, but I'm not against having some rosé. Not against it. For those of you who know me, you know I love craft beer. When I do drink beer anyway, it's craft beer. My favorite just regular beers would probably be, if I could have a top 3, it's probably going to go Corona, Heineken, and Yingling. Something different about craft beer, like there's so many different types, and there's so many different, I don't know, I mean, you got lagers, you got stouts, you got IPAs, sours. Originally my favorite beer, because I mean, when I first started drinking beer, like, I don't know, like, to me, they all tasted the same, but I feel like it's one of those things, like, you got to get a taste for it. I would say my first actual type of beer that I really got into was sours. Like, there was 2 of my favorites. There was Lagunitas Aunt Sally, which is about 6% alcohol, and then there's Sour Monkey by Victory Brewing Company. That's about 9% alcohol. I went out one night, and I really liked it. I've yet to find Aunt Sally on tap. If you have found it, please let me know so I can go get it. Because, certain beers, they taste a little bit better on tap than they do out of a can or a bottle. I don't know why that is, but it is. I would say now my favorite type of beer, even though I still love my sours, I would say my favorite type of beer is a good IPA. My favorite is Lagunitas. Lagunitas Brewing Company is my favorite, probably one of my favorite brewing companies. I've also had a coffee IPA that a lot of people, they don't realize, like, they make beer that's coffee flavored, and it kind of blows their mind a little bit. I know I had one in my apartment the other night, and my dude, shout out Noah Carter, was like, "You're drinking coffee beer?" I'm like, "Yeah, like, shit's banging." So moving on, Modern Warfare is coming back. For those of us who are into gaming and that, like, I grew up on Modern Warfare. That was my middle school addiction. Like, Modern Warfare. To me, when at that point, it was either Modern Warfare or Halo. It was like one or the other. And for me, it was Modern Warfare, just for the simple fact it was more realistic warfare. And what blew my mind about it so much is, like, up to that point with shooters, we had only really ever seen sci-fi and mostly World War II shooters, which is fine. But, like, the fact that it was a current, modern, a.k.a. the name, it was a current form of warfare, like, what we were doing in Iraq at the time, and it was like, fuck, that's kind of cool. Like, I've never seen that in a video game, and so I started playing it. My buddy Sebastian introduced me to it, and that's all she wrote. When Modern Warfare 2 came out, it was just like, fuck. Like, it blew my mind because it was just more of what we loved about the original. Didn't care as much for Modern Warfare 3, though. I will say that. It was fun. I'm not one of these people. I'm not one of these types of people who, like, the littlest detail about a video game. Like, I'll admit it. Like, the fucking jetpacks that they introduced to Call of Duty when they came out with Advanced Warfare and, Black Ops and Infinite Warfare is just like, okay. For those of us who like boots on the ground, we back. I don't know why I say we back, because Black Ops 4 is boots on the ground. But anyhow. And for those of you who like jetpacks, you can go fuck yourself. Just kidding. you don't have to go fuck yourself. So lastly, I want to finish up with the topic of pulling from opposite directions. Now you're going to look at me like, what the hell do you mean pulling from opposite directions? I don't know. Just kidding, I know, because I play in this podcast. My last podcast was about, being, dealing with negative thoughts, negative emotions, and realizing if you just stay present and stay absorbed in the moment, negative thoughts and negative emotions, which at the end of the day is just energy, it'll pass. Like, it will pass. That, that's undisputed, that's unarguable. It will pass. It's just energy. Now, if you get involved in it and try to push it down and suppress it, it won't go away, and it'll just build up. But, when it comes to, and I talked a little bit about getting out of your comfort zone, and that's kind of where I want to go real quick with pulling from opposite directions. When it comes to life and it comes to doing what you want to do, I feel like, I know we all have that one thing that's just like, from day one, it's been like our thing. Like, no matter how much we change, it's like that, that talent, that ability, it's always been there and it's not going anywhere. To me, that's like what you're meant to do, and that's what you're meant to build your life around. I really believe that. A lot of times we get involved in our way of doing things, and we kind of close ourselves off to outside advice, outside ideas, outside opinions. And I'll be the first one to fucking tell you, you should not give a shit about other people's opinions. That's one thing. You can have empathy and respect to where they're coming from, because at the end of the day, everybody has their own, thought system that they run and their own way of doing things. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't be wired to allow somebody else's opinion to dictate what the fuck you do and dictate your life. And me personally, I've found that is literally the happiest way to live. When you are able to be so confident and comfortable with what you do that you don't allow other people's opinions to dictate it, but at the same time be open to outside ideas that you could potentially add to that and pull from those two ends, that's when shit starts to click. Because the more, at least for me, because I'll be the first to tell you, like, I don't let other people's opinions, other people's judgments run my life. I don't do it. I will never do it. But I am open to the idea of listening and seeing what other people are doing that works for them, so I could potentially add something to what I do to make me better. Look at it this way. You could take somebody like Steve Jobs, where he, was kind of an asshole to people and a dick. You could look at that and allow that to blind you to all the good things you can learn from, like, growing a business, growing a company. Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of fucking Wall Street. You could look at all the bad things he did and allow that to blind you to the good things you can learn about how he was a fucking master of persuasion and sales. Like, you could literally learn from these people, but you allow yourself to be blinded by only the bad things, and you don't take the good nugget. At the end of the day, when it comes to finding the good or the bad in people and situations, in your situations, in life, if you want to find the bad, it'll be a piece of cake. If you want to find the good, it'll be a fucking piece of cake. Let's choose the good cake.